Welcome to Connection Artist, the podcast for building better relationships by design. Love and human connection are fundamental needs for all of us, but how do we cultivate lasting, emotionally healthy, fulfilling relationships with ourselves and others? I'm Luca, and I invite you to join me in meeting everyday people with diverse backgrounds and ages who all have one thing in common: a genuine passion for fostering meaningful connections. You'll hear their heartwarming stories and practical advice for building lasting marriages, lifelong friendships, and self-love. In this season 1, we sit down with 10 couples, learn how they met, and hear the secrets behind how they've built lasting marriages. Their insights will inspire and enlighten you. I also interview guests who found and maintained warm, lasting friendships for decades, and they're sharing how they did it. And lastly, we can't forget the importance of growing a loving relationship with ourselves, so we discuss building self-love and confidence. I've brought together a fantastic lineup of guests for you to meet who will share their unique stories and invaluable communication and relationship advice. Together, we're learning the secrets to building more meaningful, fulfilling relationships, one conversation at a time. I'm Luca, and I invite you to join me in becoming a connection artist. All right, welcome back, everyone, to our podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to Sonya. Sonya is such an incredible soul. She lights up the room when she's around people. People love being around her. She's one of those energy-giving people. She's so great at building relationships. And from the first day that I met her, I was like, there's something really special about her. So I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to her today. We're going to be talking about how she developed her confidence and also how that folds into the relationships that she's built in life on a social level and professional level, but also just talking about any kind of confidence barriers that came up for her in life and how she overcame them. So I'll give Sonya a moment to just briefly introduce herself.
Well, thank you, Anna. I really appreciate you're doing this. Well, as you all know, my name is Sonya, and I guess it started as far as from a little girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No confidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, and starting like going to school, extremely shy, very quiet.
Okay.
It's very quiet, extremely shy. It did not start until like the 4th grade. And because I was so shy and so quiet, I used to get picked on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day at recess, a little boy was picking on me, a classmate. And then I got tired. And, you know, it just came out of nowhere, you know, started fighting. I told him how he was going to treat me. And a little bit by little bit, you know, it started building up. Mm-hmm. Now, I will honestly say as an adult, there's times, being a young adult, you know, that up and down, you know, when you're dating in relationships,
yeah.
You know, you feel like, okay, who am I, you know?
Yeah.
This person pretended like they, you know, I was beautiful and I was this, but yet, you know, they went on to this other person. So what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not good enough? Why am I not beautiful enough? And that's one of the things that I have learned, that we allow ourselves to be put in those situations because another person can never define who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and on the inside, I didn't feel good about myself for a long time. One thing I did was, as you know, my prayer life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have no confidence, but I have confidence with Jesus Christ.
I love this. We're going to talk more about this.
And that's where, you know, the zigzag of my life. It's just like I'm trying so hard to like, okay, I want to be loved. I want to be liked. I want my kids to like me.
Yeah.
I want anyone to come in contact. You know, that's the person who I was.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with those that didn't like me.
Yeah.
And I used to try to like, what did I do? You know, I was such a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. And the people pleasing taught me a lot about people, because it taught me that don't expect for people to give you back what you give them. You know, and when you're a giver, you know, whatever kind of way,
mm-hmm.
you know, especially when it's genuine and from the heart, that heart can get broken at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not with, personal relationships, with a male. It's just like with anyone.
Yeah.
And I was lacking a lot of self-confidence because I had this issue with the word no.
Saying it or
saying
hearing?
it no.
Yeah, boundaries.
I'm like, whoa, and then the same people that I was pleasing, I found out that once you start telling them no, things change, and then it was like, okay.
As in you lose them, or?
You lose them.
Yeah.
You lose them. And, and some of them I kind of like. But then again, it's like, you love being punished. Why? You know what I mean? We put ourselves, I put myself in some bad situations, and I honestly have to reevaluate, like, who am I? What type of person who I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I can still be Sonya. I can still be kind-hearted because that's who I believe that, I should be. There's no reason for us. Being kind to people is free. Mm-hmm. There's not one reason for us to be mean or disrespectful or horrible to anyone. So I feel like coming out of my shell as an adult, it really had me all over the place. And then I just felt lost for a while. And like I said, until I started like, okay, I made a lot of bad choices in life. I can't look at other people for the decisions and the things that I've done. Mm-hmm. So it's time for me to define who I am. Time for me to make some changes.
To take accountability, it sounds
oh my God.
Of your choices and of your life.
Absolutely. And when I took that deep look at myself, and I'm like, girl, you really have a lot of changing that you need to do. And I still need to do some changing. Yeah. Still growing. But I like the person who I am now. I can honestly say that.
A lot of people like the person you are.
I really do like the person who I am now, and I really feel good about myself because I finally had to put myself in a position to do the work.
Yeah.
And that work was like, stop pretending, like this is okay. It's not okay for people to mistreat you.
Yeah.
It's not okay for you to be used. It's not okay for you to like, okay, well, I want them to like me, so I'm going to give. That's like, no. If a person don't like you for your natural self, and then, hey, okay, that's fine. They have a choice just like you have a choice. Mm-hmm. Learn how to move on without hate. I mean, like, I have been around a lot of gossip and a lot of craziness. I don't want to waste my time with it. I feel like that if a person don't value you or they don't care to be a friend to you or whatever, move on. It's okay. They're not required to be your friend. And you're not required to be theirs. And when I learned how to walk away and still feel good about myself, and feel good about the situation, because I feel like every time when something comes up, and it seems like it's a bad situation, but I feel like that personally and spiritually, I just been blocked from someone that would have caused harm.
So you find the positive silver lining.
I find the positive part about it, but also I feel like that I'm protected in that kind of way too. So I feel secure.
Yeah.
And I feel good.
So there is a saying or an expression that is rejection is God's redirection or God's protection. Rejection is God's protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Lord, I have been protected many a times.
There are so many good things that you just shared in that kind of intro opening. We'll kind of peel back a couple of them, if you don't mind. So I want to talk about in a little bit what that doing the work looked like for you, because some people are, maybe we'll just talk about it now and then we'll kind of work backwards in your story. But some people, when they realize something is not working in my life, I need to change, but they just don't know how. Mm-hmm. What did that process look like for you? For some people, it involves therapy. For some people, it involves maybe letting go and cutting out a lot of people in their life that are not adding to it, completely redoing their image, their physical and also like internal work. It looks like a lot of different things for different people. For you, what did that process look like in doing the work?
For me, I have to be honest with myself, and find out the things that I was doing. And I wrote down everything. I wrote it on a piece of paper, honestly. And I just started writing down, okay, why are you doing this, Sonya? You did this, you did that, and just listing things that I did not like about myself. Be truthful. That's what happened. I wrote it down.
Behaviors that you didn't like.
Right, I didn't like
Not
it.
like, this wasn't like a self-critical list.
No,
I don't like
no.
that I look like this or that I sound like that.
Yeah. It was about the behaviors, like you said.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm worn out and I'm tired. I'm like, God, I'm tired of this. And there was a time when I wouldn't speak up for myself. There was a time when I was just like, okay, they said that, like I said, like the little kid in school. But as an adult, there was times when I walked away when I should have just said my piece, then walked away. And I'm living with a lot of regrets. And I'm like that. And now, and I just got tired of this person. I'm like, God, I'm not a weak person. I need help, and honestly, I got tired of me, and I got tired of the choices I was making with everything in my life, to be honest, at that time. And I found my strength and my faith. There's no other answer I have but just that. Everything that I have, my growth, praying constantly, faithfully, every day. I feel like that without prayer, I'm lost. Because prayer is my factual communication with God. And it helps me. It gets me going through the day. I feel good. I feel secure. I feel protected. And I feel love. I feel love, really, truly loved by God. And that's the reason why no matter what goes on in my life, I always have to dig deep and remember who I am. And who I am is a true child of God.
Yes.
That's who I am.
So did your faith strengthen at the same time that you were having this kind of like self-reinvention? Did those two go hand in hand together?
Yes.
Or were you always like a believer, a person of faith, and that was just was it a dual experience for you?
Well, being a believer, in order to understand the path that we should be taking, and when things happen and when we feel discouraged, we have to read the Bible. And I believe I shared before, yes, I confess to be a believer, but I'm not reading the Bible. It's too difficult, you know? It's like, oh my God, my eyes are getting watery. I was like, every excuse not to read the Bible. So I honestly was like, yes, I'm a Christian, but I was not studying, and I was not reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I started reading the Bible and started praying for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, when I tell you that now that it's like my love language, whatever you want to call it, I am into it. And it puts me on the right path. But not only that, it helps me to understand how to live in this thing we call Earth today.
Yeah. I had a thought last year because I was attending church somewhere pretty regularly, and we were discussing the meaning of the Bible, what kind of, and God. It was kind of, I was part of a community group that was just kind of exploring faith. It was a variety of people at different chapters of their belief in a Christian God. And I was kind of agnostic, still just trying to make sense of it from like an unbiased angle. And it occurred to me that, and the whole, this community group was a discussion group that met weekly for a few months. And with each discussion, we all would ask questions of each other and try to make sense of what's real, what's not real, who is God, what are the limitations of the Bible, all these different questions. And then at the end of it, because I was still kind of like agnostic, and I was like, at the end of it, I came to the realization that maybe it doesn't matter whether there factually is or is not a God in the world, as long as it's true to you and if it helps your life And I realize that for some people, that comfort can be a source of confidence because God is kind of positioned in a lot of religion, or at least the Christian religion, as kind of like your ultimate parent.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of how you were parented or the imperfect love that you received throughout life, if you choose to believe at some point, no, God is real, He is my parent, I am a child of God, I'm just going to believe that as easily as I can choose not to believe it. I can choose to believe it if that helps my life.
Mm-hmm.
And if it helps my life to know that He has faith in me, He put me here because He saw my worth, so therefore I am worthy because He put me here.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that God can be, for some people, if they choose it, a source of their confidence. If they, instead of, especially with people who have most of their life tried to seek their validation or their worthiness from external sources,
Mm-hmm.
like from praise from others or belonging in a certain group, whatever it is. If you're going to do that and it's too difficult for you to source it from within yourself internally, at least source it from an external source like God or your concept of God, who can be a stable source for you, so that it never fluctuates, because people's opinions fluctuate day to day. So if you're basing your worth on the fluctuating opinion, or your confidence on the fluctuating opinions and feedback from others, then your confidence every single day will waver up and down.
That is so true.
If you pin it in something that's stable, like a God or universe or source or whatever you want to believe in, then that's a more stable external source that can just give you peace of mind to feel like you're not alone in this world. And therefore you might have the confidence in yourself to speak up for yourself in certain situations or whatever. But I didn't mean for this to be a monologue, but
it came out really good, honey. It's like you start teaching your Bible classes.
But I'm just curious if that resonates with you, if that was your experience at the moment that you started to almost imagine, in this moment, I'm not alone. I'm sitting next to God. I'm not alone in this experience or this challenge. I'm sitting next to someone that I believe is with me, and therefore I feel assured that in this moment I have help in this moment. I'm not alone. Because I think it's the concept of being alone that really scares people and gives them, kind of deteriorates their self-esteem a little bit. But when you feel like you're not alone, you feel supported, you feel like there's someone watching over you, it can be a source of comfort and ease.
Absolutely. I can tell you that, Anna, I'm married, and I know that my husband loved me dearly. I know that my children love me dearly. But for a long time, I still felt alone, you know? I mean, you mentioned alone, and I'm like, wow. That just put a memory back in my head during a season that I really felt alone, you know? And I'm like that, and I couldn't explain it, you know? And I was trying to seek Him for help, and I'm like, and I stopped because I'm like, you can't help me no matter what. Spending time with my kids, as much as I love my kids, nothing was helping me during a season of my life, you know. And when I tell you that the time when I literally fall onto my knees and I stretch my hands out, I'm like, God, you know, and you know how some people say, are you real? If you real, show me. I always believed that God was real, but I never surrendered all to Him. So I'm like, God, I know you real. Forgive me for my sins. I'm surrendering everything to you. What I mean by that is like that everything. I gave Him everything. I felt like that day, all the pain that I was feeling, I gave. You know, everything I went through with my childhood, I gave. You know, I feel like the loneliness, you know, fear all the time, you know, being here. And it's just like, and I was angry because I don't want to be in Minnesota, you know. And I'm like, all of this kind of stuff, you know. I'm like, I'm tired of being angry. On the inside, you will never know it on the outside. But on the inside, I was raging. And do you know what it's like to carry all that burden for 3 years straight almost? You know, you're like carrying, and it's like growing.
It's heavy.
It's growing. And I'm like, one day it's going to come out. And it's going to come out in the wrong place with the wrong person at the wrong time. God, I need help. that. And I look back on things like that in a bad relationship. I was in an abusive relationship once. And, oh my God. And in the end, it's like that, trying to survive out of that. The abuse, the hurt, and the pain. And knowing that my father, I know he was hurting, seeing me going through. He didn't know what was happening, but I know in his heart he knew something was happening. And 4 years straight, I stayed right there, engaged to a monster, until my daughter, my oldest daughter, she was sitting on the sofa one day. And I was like, I cannot take it anymore. Come on, Sonya, let's go. We was going to go to a hotel room. My baby was 3 years old, and she sat on that sofa, Anna, and she said, why are you packing? You're just going to come back. I kid you not. I looked at my child. I left everything there was and got my baby and left. And started over from scratch. Never looked back. Never. That baby was my angel that saved my life.
Wow.
So when I say God was always there, there is no way a 3-year-old that I can think of could ever mind, could be that stern. And the way she talked at that moment, because she was still learning to speak, really
she said what you needed to hear.
But the way she said it, it was like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. And she looked me in the eyes.
This is such a good story.
So it's like, that's the reason why, there's just a couple of things, but it's just like those things. I know that I didn't have the strength to do a lot of things on my own. I feel like I was always protected. Now I know, even though the times when I felt alone, even though through it all, and my faith is strong. I trust God with my life because He has saved my life several times. And that's why that, when you see me, if you ever see me down or whatever, it'll only be for a little while. Because I'm always going to remember my blessings. I'm always going to remember every day I open my eyes as a miracle. And I am a miracle child. And that's that. So my confidence comes from believing in Jesus Christ. He taught me. Every day, I read the Bible every day. Every day, I feel like a better person. Every day, I'm learning how to treat people. Every day, I'm learning, okay, I don't have to hate anyone. You really don't. You don't have to hate not a soul. You don't have to have no hate in your heart for not a soul. You can show love to people, even when they're not showing love. Girl, please, I deal with it all the time. Everybody in this building don't like me, and that's okay. And I'm really okay with it, and I have learned to be just okay with it.
So, talking about that one aspect of people pleasing, how did your faith in God relax that need or tendency that you used to have? Is it just feeling that I'm accepted by God or an ultimate source, so I don't have to overwork now to earn other people's favor? Is it that, or was it something else? How did He kind of cure that aspect of a habit that you didn't want to continue?
There's a verse in the Bible, and I will find the chapter and the exact verse for you, send it to you, but it says, you owe no man nothing but to love him.
What was that?
You owe no man nothing but to love him.
You owe no man nothing but to love him.
When I tell you, my people pleasing was disturbed. My family is kind of surprised by me saying no to certain things now, but I feel like that now. I tell people no, I do now, and I learned how to do that with love. Without feeling like, okay, well, this person if you don't speak to me again, then you use me. I shouldn't be in a relationship with you or anything. I don't care if you're family. I don't care. I gotten to that point now, if you can't understand that at this moment, if I say no, it's for a reason, but I don't feel like I have to explain that to you. You know what I mean? And it's like, if I say no, I'm not saying it okay, well, you haven't paid me back the last 5 times I loaned you something. Or, no, I don't think it's a good time for you to come to Minnesota. We have a small apartment as far as I'm concerned. And everyone in my family still can't get it that we're in this apartment and we gave up a house. So I'm like, well, it's an apartment. You have to stay in a hotel, when you come. But no, no, it's not a good time. Or maybe I just don't want to host you during this time. And I'm learning, and I have said it. I've been saying it like all doggone summer and season, and it feels good.
From an outsider's perspective, it seems like I always thought that you had great boundaries. Like, because you express when you feel, at least, because you've been practicing at least, so I was like, she'll just tell me if she doesn't want to do something, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, you seem to be pretty good now with vocalizing what works for you and what doesn't.
It works. It's been very helpful, and I feel good about it because I'm learning. And like I said, I am still growing, but I like where I'm at now. I like this person now.
Good.
And I learned to accept, truthfully, that it's okay. You're not a bad person by saying no. You're not a bad person by, listen. And then there's times when, like they say, you're giving from an empty pot. You're trying to give, and then you look around, what do you have left?
Yeah.
When do people value you for just you? Like I told a cousin, when have you ever called me without asking for something? But by the way, I'm doing fine. The family is doing great, and I hope you're doing the same. But the answer is no. And I'm not like being mean to people. I'm not trying to take a revenge out on everybody. It's not that. It's just the fact that I'm trying to set those boundaries with especially family, and others, and just let them know, there's a time when I love to give because that's, I believe, who God created me to be a cheerful giver. But then there are some people that would take advantage, and you just have to let them know.
Yeah. You touched on so many great points because I think a lot of people, why they're people pleasers is because they feel guilty to say no. They don't want to be bad.
Yeah.
They don't want to be perceived as I'm being mean or I don't want to lose them from my life, like you mentioned. But you also mentioned that in your experience, the people who left your life because you set simple boundaries were probably not meant to be in your life.
They were not.
And they were people who were around because it was convenient to them, or they were gaining some benefit to them. It wasn't so much about how am I making Sonya feel.
Yeah.
So that's an important note for anyone, I think, struggling to have more balanced relationships where they're not the only giver, because there are takers for every giver.
Amen.
So if you choose to be in that consistent, I am giving without expecting anything in return, and it's not a balanced relationship, that's when you can end up in really difficult or even abusive or exploitative relationships. So be mindful of, I would say, be mindful if you're in a balanced relationship, and does this person support you having boundaries, or do they work against them? Like, healthy people in your life, if they're reasonable boundaries, healthy boundaries, like, no, I'm just too tired right now to do that or something, that's a reasonable boundary. Healthy people will understand. Healthy people that value you and want a stake in your life will understand and say, okay, we'll just reschedule or whatever it is. It's the people who are used to controlling you, I think, that have that your boundaries don't work for them.
Absolutely.
Like, no, this is my time. You have to do it now, or I tell you what's okay and what's not okay. So be really, I think people should be cognizant of how people respond to their boundaries. If it's in a positive way, if it's in a negative way, because that really shows who that person's character is.
Amen. But that's nothing but fact. You spoke it. That's the truth. Yeah. And that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and a person's character.
And it all comes back to confidence early on in life, because this is something that, like you, I struggled with my confidence in early childhood as well, and that kind of made us susceptible to bullying later on. And then falling into that people-pleasing habit because we struggled with confidence as kids. But that early confidence era, like early on in life, like how did you said that a pivotal point was when you stood up to a bully. You said no. did bullies leave you alone after that, or what happened after that?
I remember that it was this little boy, and also it was these twin girls, Bridget and Melody.
Ooh.
They used to pick on me a lot, but after I don't encourage fighting, I really don't. But I think at that time, I think just enough was enough. Mm-hmm. And I was fighting this kid, and then I wanted to fight. And then the twin girls was like, oh my God, they tried to be friends with me after that. No more bullying from them, or any of that. And I remember one of them, Melody, she was like that. Well, I remember her saying to me, you changed. You changed since you beat him up. I'm like, and I looked at her, and I'm like, I didn't change. And then I realized we're all walking home together. Usually I would try to cross the street or whatever, or, do something like that. But we was walking home together. And then all of a sudden, they wanted to be friends. And then I'm like, then I look back on that, and I'm like, always with my kids, you don't have to get into a fight, but you definitely have to stand up for yourself.
So it sounds like what happened is when people saw you respecting yourself, they started to respect you.
That's right.
So when they saw that you're not someone that just accepts things happening to them, that you take control and say, no, this is how things are going to happen, that's when they stopped.
Right. And another lesson is stop holding things in for so long. I was tired of being bullied. Never told my parents.
So it sounds like you didn't speak up soon enough about it.
I did not. So, like if I will always say to like my kids, y'all have issues, come to me and tell me anything. But I don't know why. I was such a quiet kid. You know what I mean? Even in my home, they told me you was just quiet. You was just so quiet. And I'm like, why was I so quiet? And everybody else seemed noisy,
Growing up, like as a kid, you
Yes.
Okay.
And so, but I was a very, very quiet kid, and of course I have a lot of older brothers and sisters, and it was like, we can take you anywhere. You never go back and say what we did. You never say anything. I'm like, I'm sure, but it was like, he was just very quiet, and that's how it was in school.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what do you think it was that led you to have low confidence in your childhood? For some people, it's maybe rejection or one bad experience, or was there anything that you can pinpoint, or what?
At this time of my life, still, after all these years, I still don't know how. I feel like I was born into it. You know what I mean? I feel like that, where did it come from? I don't know. My father was a pastor. He was bold,
Yeah.
My mother, I never known her to be shy. She was so sociable.
Interesting.
Always having dinner parties and stuff like that at the house. And so I'm like, I don't know. And I look around my family, there is not one other that was, I know that it was quiet or so shy like I was. And I was afraid of things, loud noises, real loud noises.
Easily startled.
And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, and I always wonder, I wish my parents were still living, because I wanted to ask my mom, did something happen when I was a baby? Did something happen that caused this?
So it sounds like maybe something happened that made you question your safety as a kid.
Yeah, and that's something.
So now you're on alert.
Always, and I want to be I really would like to know. And I think the only person who knows that is my parents,
But it sounds like you were raised in a household that was, I assume, loving and confident.
Our household, the people there was definitely loving and confidence crazy. We had a lot of good times, though. And sometimes it wasn't so good. There was good times in the household and not so good times in the household as well. So it was, sometimes it was like okay at home, and sometimes it was like everybody is on edge.
Interesting. So maybe that also influenced why you are more sensitive to being on edge around, like, storms or other things like that. But anyways, this has been a really interesting conversation.
Yes.
Thank you for being so open about this. So it sounds like we covered a lot. So we kind of talked about the trajectory of going from lacking a bit of confidence in your early childhood years to finally standing up to for yourself, and then finding even greater confidence and relaxing people-pleasing tendencies and building boundaries with the confidence that you're not alone, you're with God.
Yes.
And that today has elevated you to the kind of, I think you're a role model for confidence now, actually. Like, you are so comfortable with people now. You, like I said, I would never have known that you've ever struggled with boundaries, because you're pretty good at it now. It seems like you're very confident with it. So congratulations on the progress that you made in your life.
Thank you.
But also thank you for sharing from your heart these really vulnerable, tender stories that I'm sure listeners will hear, relate to, and realize that they are also not alone, that other people have walked the same path. And at the end of it, there is transformation. And
absolutely,
there's so much more ahead of you than behind you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Sonya.
Thank you so much. You are amazing.
You too.
Thank you. Amazing.
As we wrap up another episode of Connection Artist, I want to express my gratitude to you for listening and exploring how we can all grow and better connect with one another. I created this podcast to support your relationship success and happiness. If you found value in this episode, here's how you can support me and help spread the word about this podcast. First, subscribe to this podcast and share it with 10 friends. If you share this education with 10 people and they share it with 10 people and so on, we can grow this movement of creating a more loving and caring world. If you'd like to show your support on a personal level, visit www.analuca.com. That's ANALUCA. Explore my heart-centric products and education, from poetry books to online courses, art prints to apparel. Every purchase directly enables me to continue producing episodes and sharing these valuable stories and insights with you, because this podcast is not free to create. Please consider buying something I've made with my heart and soul to connect with you. Discover handmade heart-shaped art prints and hoodies featuring my exclusive Crypto Love Drops collection at www.artbyanaluca.com. Read about the inspiration behind these beautiful heart artworks at cryptolovedrops.com. These make really great, unique gifts for your friends, family, and spouse, and serve as a lasting symbolic reminder of your love for them. Or if you enjoy journaling or you'd like to start, get my 15-minute daily guided journal for confident mindset titled Yes, I Can. If you want more stories, buy my poetry book, The People We Meet, available on Amazon or directly on my website, artbyanaluca.com. Just click on the Books tab. Listen to my music album called Reprise on Spotify. Fun fact, the opening music track that you heard on this podcast is actually composed by me and is featured in my music album. If you want to learn how to strengthen your self-worth, get my digital ebook called Well Valued, which features a 30-day blueprint for building self-worth. Or if you're single and want to learn how to assess and find your most compatible dating partner using AI, get my digital course called Well Matched. These products are all designed to strengthen your self-worth and relationships and are all linked in my website, www.analuca.com. Also, don't forget to check out my hand-illustrated apparel line at www.laughstoself.com. I hand-designed really funny, cute illustrations that made me laugh, but also serve the purpose of spreading humor, love, and connection with others. That apparel line of hoodies, t-shirts, and sweaters are exclusively available only on my website, so if you want to wear something unique, check out laughstoself.com. Connect with me on social media for podcast and life updates. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at AnaLucaOfficial. And lastly, if you're based in the United States and would like to be interviewed on the podcast, send me a message at myconnectionartist@gmail.com to potentially join me as a guest on this show in the future. Remember to subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. It helps a lot in reaching more listeners like you who can benefit from this information. Thank you for being a part of this Connection Artist community. I'm wishing you so much love and happiness in your relationships. Stay tuned for the next episode.